Okay, we are on.
And this is we are. Look.
I love it. Perfect. Okay. You have those papers handy, right? So we can show them. Perfect. All right, 3, 2, 1,
Go.
Hi everyone, my name is Emiliana Molina. I'm here with Ali Kartalsuna, an amazing musician, a magical being, a community leader here in Miami. And we're going to be talking a little bit about an event that we're co-creating here in Miami. It's called Wake Up Call. We started co-creating it a little bit less than 2 weeks ago, and it's happening on December 27 till the 28th. And also we're going to be sharing a little bit about Ali's history, his story, where he comes from, how he began as a musician, the gifts that he's bringing to the world, and not only his message and his intentions, but the message that was delivered to him to create this 24-hour event that we are building here in Miami. We're not really sure if we're going to be able to play music and pray the full 24 hours, but we're going to try. And the intention is truly to bring community together, which is what Ali was sharing with us recently, and to have a wake-up call for all of us to come together, to work together, to harmonize, and to just support one another in community, and as we're learning to grow and learn from each other together. So Ali, welcome. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
My name is Ali Ceyhun Kartalsuna, as you mentioned, and as you see, I've been building a community through the rhythm and music around the heart, and this 24 hours has been past 10 years of knowing that when time is right, this is something that I will be starting, just to gather whole community in one space, to open one portal, to share the medicine of music and get together. So it's a good timing now. I believe we are starting.
Agreed. Ali, so you also went to Berklee School of Music and you studied there, and that's very impressive. And one of the things that I find most impressive about you is the way that you show up in community and the way that you teach. And a lot of it is through silence and presence. You are a man of very few words, but when you do speak, it is very wise. I can tell that you hear people. I can tell that you see people. And I can tell that you're very careful to really speak what's necessary and not more or less than what needs to be. And I know that you spent at least 4 years of silence and community. Do you want to share a little bit more about that in your experience and why you chose to go in a path of very few words?
I guess from childhood, I remember even 12, 13 years old, those times. I love listening, I love learning, and I love to listen everybody around me. My grandparents, my uncle, my aunt, my friends, my mom, my dad, and my friends. Then later I realized it's also something to do with my energy. Whoever I meet, as soon as I meet them, they start talking, and I never had time to even speak level. I surrender to that listening, and everybody I met in my life became a teacher of mine. With this listening skills, I turned into endless growth. So everyone I met until today, which in my Instagram there are 2,000 people, in Tribal Galaxy there's 200 people, I have that many teachers. So every person being I met, because I've been listening maybe 85% of our friendship relation, and 15% I will speak back, and that created the best university, best college, best retreat that I could put myself into. God constantly sends people into my life, and all I need to be carefully listening the message, the lesson, that I need to remember, and they show up in my life in that moment for me to listen, for me to remember. That was so clear, and it took years. I even lived without really speaking a week, not speaking at all, and I realized I can drum without speaking, I can DJ without speaking, I meditate without speaking, I do yoga without speaking, I produce without speaking, I swim without speaking. Everything I like to practice in my life and requires silence. So it became who I am. Unless I need to share my dream, unless I have a question, I need to share my frustration or my questioning, then I speak. Other than that, I don't need to prove anything to anyone in this life.
I love that. That's really wise and really admirable, because I know that there's a lot of people that have a difficult time sitting in silence. And oftentimes I feel like that is one way that the world is kind of showing you what you really get to work on within yourself. Like, if you are a human that struggles sitting in silence with themselves and constantly has to be on the phone or watching TV or listening to music or speaking nonstop and not hearing others and what they have to say, it's kind of an invitation to try to really go inwards to hear yourself and not the outside noise. So you bring really beautiful teachings and medicine through your presence and through your silence, and I know I'm learning a lot from it right now, and you've been a great teacher, because I'm a communicator, so I have to constantly be speaking. I'm constantly doing interviews, constantly doing podcasts, and I love sitting in silence with myself. Like, I also crave those times where I just need to go inward, sit in nature, spend time with myself in silence to hear my essence. But it wasn't always like that for me. I used to work in the news industry, where I used to cover a lot of breaking news, and I covered the worst of humanity, the worst tragedies, school massacres, school shootings, wars, etc. And I had a really hard wake-up call to remove myself from that environment, because it was leading me to a space of a lot of depression, a lot of sadness, a lot of grief, a lot of anxiety, and a lot of panic attacks at the time too, because it was constantly going and speaking about the worst of humanity and also covering the best of humanity. But it was a lot of pressure, so I learned after having that wake-up call in 2020 to sit in silence, to meditate, to pray in different ways, to pray through songs, through instruments, through playing music, etc. And when you came to me saying, I want to do a 24-hour music jamming session and prayer with Cacao, I said, Ali, you're crazy. But this is my kind of crazy, so yes, I'll support you. And you told me your intentions, and then I really was like, okay, you're really crazy, and I don't know how we're gonna pull this off in 2 weeks, but sure, I'll help you and I'll support. And I flew from Colombia to Miami to support you and Natalya Spicker, who's also doing this event with us. Do you want to share a little bit about the essence of the event and what came through for you to build this?
There are so many topics related to this, how this 10 years ago it came out, but specifically this 24 hours, because life is a cycle. And percussion, we practice the heartbeat and power of now and the timing of life. And when you precisely for hours practice timing, you are in time, in now, every millisecond. So you are in time. So the 24-hour cycle in our being, there's one guru says, if you sit in one place for 24 hours, you can get most aligned to yourself without any distraction. And 24 hours time to gather and pray, play music, and learn and practice and teach. It's my daily life. That's how much I dedicated my life to learning path of each part of sound and music. And then I realized that's not about music, it's about humanity. So everything I study relates to culture and people and community and all type of people in communities. And once we gather people around music in this way, is one of the strongest medicine you can share with everyone in community. The joy, the laughter, if it's tears, if it's pain, if it's any possible way that it will come out, that's how community heals. And music is one of the source to bring people together to one space, like the fire. When you lit the fire, when you create that vibration and sound, community comes together around that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that, you know, when we had the initial conversation as to what the intentions were with this event, I think that what we're moving into as humanity is a new way of co-creation, right? A co-creation where we're very aware, very vulnerable, and very mindful that whoever we choose to co-create with is a teacher in our lives, one way or another, right? And they're coming into our lives to mirror something to us. And we get to choose what we want to learn and maybe what we don't. And with that said, I remember that I mentioned to you the intention of bringing community together is beautiful. And I feel like it's also very important, two things. You know, one, prosperity and reciprocity. So how are we going to ensure that we're taken care of and that, yes, it could be a free event, and how about we make it donation based so that we're also receiving some kind of reciprocity from what we're giving so that the energy feels balanced. And two, I was very vulnerable and I shared, I feel like what part of what is being healed through this event for me and the energy that I'm feeling is a lot of sexual abuse. So I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. I haven't really spoken about this publicly. And without going into many details, I began to understand that the energy that wanted to move through this for me was an energy of shifting from victimhood to survivor and to empowerment, the rise of the feminine soft power, right? And sitting at the throne of my seat to not project my anger and rage towards people that I feel have harmed me, and rather to forgive and to truly invite the masculine forward to protect the feminine and not to abuse the feminine. And we went deeper into that conversation, understanding that it wasn't even just about me or my personal experiences of sexual abuse, and rather it was more about the collective feminine, how the masculine energy, not just men, because we all carry feminine and masculine energy, but how the collective masculine energy was being called forward, invited forward, and invited to show up differently and to protect the feminine, and not just women, but also Mother Nature. How have we as humans constantly violated Mother Nature and abused her and not asked for permission to either build or on her land or create on her land, or how we've polluted her with plastic and so on. I mean, the list continues, but the invitation of this wake-up call is, how do we become better stewards of ourselves, of our feminine energy and of our masculine energy, so that we can then deliver that to the world? And when I share that with you, the next day is when you had an experience where you started channeling literally, and you wrote down the whole blueprint for the event. Do you want to share a little bit about where you ended up the following day after that conversation and what you learned from it.
I mean, this was more than 10 years ago. I wrote this down.
Yeah.
So when you start talking about that woman abuse topic, that reminded me, I wrote this in Berklee College of Music. There was a seminar and a panel that were all the women who's abused, who was in jail, who's transgender, and who has different experiences in life, 5, 6 different women. And the talk finished, maybe 2 hours of panel talk, and when the talk finished, everybody left the library and I couldn't leave. I sat down in the chair, I couldn't go anywhere, and I asked someone if you have some paper, and then they passed me paper and I sit down and I wrote this. This relates to community, this relates to why are we doing everything we are doing and how we need to wake up in collective level to really do what we need to do, other than just being in a loop in this 3D reality, chasing money, ego, power and status. So, and then after this I wrote one more page, same day. Yeah, this was from that time.
Yeah, and this is like, I want to show you guys because this is really, really deep. Some of the things that Ali wrote here is the power of now, money, healing, listening, hearing, ego, the Berklee bubble, traditional acoustics, culture, cancers, visuals, electronic, and it's a lot of what I'm seeing here in this area where you wrote the traditional acoustics is like, correct me if I'm wrong, but part of what the electronic music or traditional acoustics are healing is, you know, culture.
That's what's happening in the world today.
What's happening in the world.
Richest man, hotel owner, restaurant owner, millionaire people, they want to be DJ, producer, and the newest fashion in music industry today, bringing old, ancient, it could be African, Indian, Brazilian, which most likely now is going to the Middle Eastern, blending with electronic. And I knew that 10 years ago, and it's happening now.
Yeah.
Because if I did that time, I was gonna be famous, I was gonna be millionaire.
Yeah.
I didn't choose that path, but I knew at that time what's happening today in the whole world. That's why you see all the electronic music festivals are the biggest festivals, events in the world today.
Yeah.
And that relates to traditional Mediterranean acoustic blending with electronic music.
And so if I'm hearing you, each level of music or each genre of music is healing something different for humanity in a way.
Of course, that's why technically I'm a student of percussion, but this is Egypt, this is Africa, this is Puerto Rico, this is Cuba, this is Middle East, this is Iran. So I am basically studying cultures, traditions, tribes, but humanity. How their heart beats, how they hear, relates to how they dress, how they eat, how they talk, how they walk. So there is nothing else in human life. So everything starts with our heartbeat to expand to life, and this drum information gives everything about humanity. More I study this, more I dive into humanity for me, because it's been ancient knowing the drum healing and information and relation to our heartbeat, relation to vibration, and the cultural aspect is even in Turkey, all the housewives, all the elder people, new habit, they're starting to drum. And in spiritual community you see everybody does plant medicine ceremonies, and they wake up next day, I was a drummer in past life, and they take shamanic drum and they walk around, I'm a drummer. But I'm in this path for 25 years, just studying that rhythm. And I'm in the beginning. I feel like I understood everything now to start. So this is the beginning. Now I know what's the school that I want to be in rest of my life.
I love that. I love that. And I think that music and dance is one of the most powerful ways to heal, at least for me. Moving my body, moving through the emotions, and then the music and music like the percussion, the drums supports me in what you said, the heartbeat, right? When we're dancing to the beat of our heart and our drum, we're living a life of more alignment, of more coherence. And additionally, we're drumming to our internal waters. You know, we're 70% water as humans. The earth is also 70% water. And when we sing, when we play instruments, when we drum, our waters feel that. They're getting that vibration, that frequency. So I feel like to a certain extent, that begins to shape and change our DNA.
Of course.
How have you experienced that for yourself?
There's so many studies, scientifically proven complex rhythm pattern can change your brain waveform to how rhythm is affecting as a frequency vibration to each part of your organ, to your chakra, to your whole your being, and that moves your body. I'm in ceremony, somebody is not even moving, and I am starting to drum, and that person move their feet, that person move their hand. That's a affection that our internal hearing to reaction in our body, how drum is bringing us back to life, and that relates to one day I realized how I play woodwind, which is our breathing, and the drumming is our heartbeat. So what keeps us alive in this life is our breathing and our heart. So that's my daily practice. That's my balance in life. That's my yin yang that I've been practicing past 25 years without knowing. And the most powerful part, that wasn't even relating to only music. That was human practice. Every human needs to practice their heartbeat. Every human needs to practice their breathing. And now, in the spiritual world, humanity wakes up past 5 years, everybody does breath work every day. We just remember to breathe today.
Yeah. I love that. Ali, you're a musical genius, and we're also human, and I know that life comes with many challenges, and I wonder if you want to share a little bit of some of the challenges that have come up for us while we're co-creating this event with Natalya as well. You know, it was a challenge for us to find a space. Eventually we didn't find a space, so we chose to do it at the beach, rain or shine, sunrise to sunset. And we've both been witnessing certain behaviors in the spiritual community, in Miami in particular, and with spiritual leaders. So do you want to share a little bit more about that without saying names, because I don't think there's any need to publicly shame anyone, but just what we've been observing.
It's rare for me to come to this point in life to be really upset and even angry to this, because I'm a community leader. God sent me into this life as that. My serving to community, my sharing all my life. If I go to wedding, 500 people dancing around me. I was thinking 10 years ago I was playing music, drum in the wedding, but I was doing the same thing that I do today in the most spiritual place. So my serving to community is something when I am who I am, when I practice who I am, my being, that serves to everyone around me, to community, to humanity level that moves around. And I had space with my own. This drum carries me in this life with the financial power of this, that I built the community space. And I move out in May, and since then I don't have space. And now I've been searching for that location that I can find to gather everybody. And you know, everybody is recommending people who has money, who has space, who has been introducing themselves as a community leader, who has space, but they're not really using the space wisely. They're using spirituality under business. Spirituality nowadays is business. Everybody open their garden, open retreat spaces, their wellness spaces to put yoga, breathwork, meditation and music, one DJ. They call it a spiritual wellness place. But once you build everything with money, with not integrity, with not real community, the healing is the missing part there. If there's no soul, money doesn't heal the soul. So for me, the most important thing is our heart, our soul needs to be foundation. That's why they tell me, Ali, you need to charge money, you do free events. I do free events because I love everyone around me, and I don't know how to charge money to people I love. And I want everybody to heal, everybody to feel what I want to bring into this life. Once everybody experience that, then money abundance will come level. I am on the path, but I don't need anyone in this world to give me money, give me support, if they don't really see the community service that my nature is being to everybody. So in reality, everybody is seeing the spiritual space as a business. That's what I awakened a couple days ago, more than ever, because I knew it, how people can put tulum hat, people can put one hoodie, and then they are spiritual suddenly. But being spiritual, living that with that coherence, is requiring a lot of intention, separation from this three reality. And it's so hard to find people that way. Thank God I have, in my Instagram, I have 5% that I analyze these days, that I have 10,000 people, 5% of them is reacting to what I'm sharing. And that's the percentage of this reality in the spiritual world that I believe. Not only materialistic world that people doesn't trust each other. Now in the same thing in the spiritual world, I feel it's so hard to find real truth. And that's what I am carrying as who I am. I am not giving up in my path. Even I realize these days, I don't have to serve community. I don't have to do anything for community. When I walk my path, that naturally serves community. And all I've been looking for one space past months, everybody's sports, and I don't have anything still. And I believe it's my destiny. Whatever meant to come to me, it will come in that right time. So I do my best and believe in my faith, believing that God is with me. So as long as I have that, the rest will be okay. So I do what I can, starting with this, to spread the message, spread the truth, share with everyone. Jim Carrey once said, I hope everybody gets famous and rich one day, so they realize that's not true happiness. I knew this when I was 18. That's why I always avoid money and fame, because money and fame might most likely affect on people's consciousness, awareness, spiritual being. It's difficult to balance. And yeah, those are some thoughts came to my mind.
I feel that it is a responsibility to become famous, you know, because once you have that level of attention, it is because your message is that important that it's being asked to share it with community, and it takes a great level of responsibility and accountability to hold yourself to your standards, to your values, to your integrity, and to have community around you that calls you forward and that invites you forward, you know, to have people that you trust that invite you forward. Ali, we're gonna finish up our interview, and before we do though, I want to invite you to add anything that maybe I didn't ask you. If you want to share any additional messages and words of wisdom.
If you meant to ask one more last question, what could be?
I think, how will you call forward other leaders? Like, what is your invitation to other leaders?
My invitation to truth. My invitation to unity. Because at the end, if we really go deep down into our heart and check our intention, why we do what we do in life, if that's really effortless, if that's really from heart, if really we say we are one, we are love, how come since I came to Miami, I've been walking around so many tribes and everybody has their own bubble. My uniqueness in Miami, in the world that I know, I walk through all these tribes. Because I'm not rich, I'm not hippie, I'm not Jewish, I'm not only that, I don't have identity when I walk in life. I walk with my heart, and everybody sees me with my heart, and I see everybody's heart without the identity and separation. And this way of walking that I've seen that much, that once people understand that every wedding, every birthday, every picnic, every gathering we do with our families and friends around us is one of the happiest time in our life. Christmas, everybody's happy these days because everybody's with their family and friends. And that's technically what I give to people before everything. I bring people together to inspire, move, touch, and that grow people internally, and that creates movement, healing movement in life with everybody. And I'm calling all the leaders all the time. I'm calling leaders personally, one by one. I'm messaging, I'm emailing. Let's create something, let's do something for others. Let's do something for others. And I'm constantly collaborating with people, so I'm calling leaders every day. Every leaders, they know that I'm calling everyone every moment. Now is wake up call. Let's wake up again. We were waking up last week, but this is another part of our growth to create something unique in community that we don't always do. So when we do something unique that affects us in a different frequency level, medicine that bring us new awareness in life. And we can do that in community. That's another clarity.
I love that. So an invitation to truth and to unity as well. Thank you for your words, for your presence, for your teachings, for your music, and for your heart. You have a very big heart, and I'm happy to be co-creating with you and to many more together.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Wow, first podcast.